This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Detroit is the greatest!
Straight up light you on fire for a Coney dog right now.
Darren McCarty comes back to Neiman in front of him. McCarty draws. McCarty in. McCarty scores! A magnificent goal! Darren McCarty!
Stafford takes, throws, end zone, Calvin, touchdown, Detroit Lions!
Hey-o! It's the Motor City Sports Rant. Welcome back, everybody. I am Jason Jarvie. Follow me on Twitter at Jarvie the King. And with me, as always, is my co-host, my friend, the Doc, John Macaroon. What's up, bud?
Go Lions! Yeah!
You told me this week you were going to be more excited, and that after sitting in your cave on Sunday watching the Detroit Lions, something has changed. You were excited by what you saw in the victory versus Washington?
I was excited when I saw it. I thought, I was very cautiously optimistic last week. And I was still kind of on the fence on if this is the real Lions team or if we're just getting a glimpse and we're going to have our hearts broken again, which I will say for the record, that could still happen. We came off of a 3-game losing streak. Now we're on a 3-game winning streak. It kind of reminds me of the Tigers this season where we're up and down. But yeah, I was in the bubble for this game. You tried to ruin it for me because I went to my nephew's last football game of the season. They won. But so I got home at like around 4.
Oh, I totally misunderstood what you meant. I thought that you had meant that you were going to be in a cave and be surrounded by no noise. All the family left. I didn't understand the phrase. I'm sorry. I didn't understand what it meant to be in the bubble. I thought you meant that you just didn't want no distraction. You wanted to watch the game in peace because I know you're a busy guy. You do a lot of different things. And I'm sorry,
You never heard the phrase in the bubble?
No.
That's what you do. You go in the bubble, and it means that you're doing something, and you want to watch this game later.
Gotcha. I just thought, that's why I said, the text I sent you, I said, tweet me during the game, text me during the game, because I was assuming that you were watching it. You just wanted to kind of be laser focused and enjoy the game. Gotcha.
No, not at all. And I'm glad you didn't continuously text me throughout the game. That would have pissed me off. You sent me the one text, and I didn't reply because I didn't want you to send me any more. But yeah, so I was at my nephew's game, got home around 4, and I watched the game. And I got to say, this is the first time that I had the entire game taped. And, I've done it before where I've just kind of fast forwarded through everything. And I've checked, and I didn't want to really be let down and waste my time. But I actually made it a point I watched every play, and I just fast forward through the commentary. And it was really nice because you see every play, and you fast forward through all the dumb commentary. I mean, the only time that I actually would want to listen to anything like that is if they're on like Sunday Night Football or Monday Night Football. A regular Fox broadcast, it doesn't really matter to me. So I watched the game, and they're playing pretty well. They didn't do a ton on offense in the first half, and it seemed like the Redskins were moving the ball, and they were just shooting themselves in the foot. And
I was shocked. Matt Jones fumbling the football.
I'm not that shocked. Now, that was his issue last year, and everyone assumed that he had fixed it. I think everyone's what they thought was going to be the issue this year is that he had that shoulder injury in preseason, and he'd had a couple really good weeks. Lo and behold, the fumble issue pops right back up, and it just happens to be against the Lions. It still kind of feels same old Lions. It's teams that we aren't really supposed to beat, but we're finding ways to win. And I think the only real reason why we are winning right now, and I love it, is Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford is a guy that I've always you've heard me talk about him. I get glassy eyed when I was at Allen Park and he came in the room because the dude is just I don't know, he's a cool dude. And I think he's the perfect franchise quarterback if he can actually go out and win us playoff games and maybe even get us to a Super Bowl. He's the perfect franchise quarterback to do that kind of thing. And I think he's the one reason why we continue to win. And it really is true, because all 4 of our victories come on last minute drives in the fourth quarter. And even though the first 3 were all won by field goal, this one you finally had to. You were down by more than a field goal, so you needed to score a touchdown. And that's what Matthew Stafford did. In Lions seasons in the past, you would almost just hang your head in defeat, knowing that they're just going to go out there and they'll probably either go 4 and out, 3 and out, or they're going to throw a timely pick. And it didn't happen. Matthew Stafford made plays, either throwing it, he ran the ball, he fought for extra yards, and then he throws the strike to Anquan Bolden, and you just get it, and it's the game for the Lions. It's very exciting.
Dude, Jason, it only took 49 seconds, 6 plays to go 75 yards. A lot of people are discussing that play by Kirk Cousins was such a well-designed play. To see Kirk Cousins fake the handoff and zoom into the end zone, you're like, oh boy. A lot of people had thought that Washington was going to win the game, that they had just a little bit more talent and were a little bit stronger across the board.
They left too much time on the clock.
I felt that the Lions had a decent chance. I was hoping that Matthew Stafford was going to make good choices, because we had seen it before in previous weeks where our opponents had come in and were driving late and throwing the interception. And after Darius Slay goes down, you're like, oh boy, can the Lions overcome another injury, another significant injury? At the time in the game, it was a crucial time because it seemed to give Washington a little bit more momentum. The Lions blew a double-digit lead in the fourth quarter, but Matthew Stafford is on point this year.
And you can't deny also that Josh Norman, their top cornerback, and it seemed like they had all of their other cornerbacks went out at some point, so they were depleted in their own secondary, but he still made the plays.
Exactly. And what was so awesome when you started looking at Matthew Stafford's 100 career starts is that he's got now 24 fourth quarter comebacks. That number is staggering. And then they came out and said that he has the highest yardage of passing in 100 games so far to start his career. And now he's starting to get national respect. He's starting to get talked about a little bit. The narrative is changing with Matthew Stafford a little bit in that, okay, we got a guy that's starting to live up to the hype, starting to live up to the number 1 overall pick. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later. But in the headline now in Detroit News talking about the Lions, the headline is Start Believin'. And we talked about that a little bit yesterday when we were talking about the show. Are you willing now to kind of go all in with these Detroit Lions and say this is a team that if they continue to play well, if they go to Houston next week and dominate a team that's playing not so great with an overpriced quarterback, can you say that you're jumping on the bandwagon full force and will be willing to accept the ultimate disappointment? Because I think the ceiling is just one playoff win. That's what everybody's getting excited for right now with this Detroit Lion team. And Jim Caldwell's starting to hint at it. The fans are getting excited. This Lion team, if they can just get a couple guys back on defense, a little bit more impactful plays, more consistency on that defensive side, you could say you can rally behind this team and really start to expect maybe they get to the postseason and maybe make some noise.
So I'm not exactly ready to be the crazy Lion fan. I'm not play the drop. Play the drop right now.
Wait, you think it's crazy to think that Detroit Lion fans should get excited with watching what's going on with Matthew Stafford and that offense?
Go Lions! Yeah!
See that, Jason, right there? I'm not there yet. I was all in thinking that we actually had a really good chance to win every game. Now, where I'm at right now, I am definitely more excited. And a couple weeks ago, I was saying that this team could go 2-14. Now, obviously, we've won 3 in a row. We're definitely looking better. And where I'm at right now is that I'm at that we can actually compete in pretty much every game the rest of the season. That there's really no game that I'd say that we have absolutely no chance. I think at this point, from what they've shown us, is that they have what it takes to be in games, at least up until the fourth quarter. And then it's going to come down to those intangibles, and mainly Matthew Stafford can he win us those games? So that's where I am. And I think if Matthew Stafford is really taking that next step, then I think that's something really good for the Lions, because that means if you're in it in the fourth quarter, give Matthew Stafford the ball, and there's a really good chance that he's going to win you the ball game. And I also want to point out, there's good reason to have lost hope in this team, because the team that had lost 3 in a row, after you lost that game to the Chicago Bears, there was absolutely no hope for that team. All from what we had seen up until that point in the season, there was nothing to show us that they could compete the rest of the season. Now, after three straight wins, and Matthew Stafford looking like an MVP caliber quarterback, obviously, I think your viewpoint has to change, and I think your expectations have to change. So my expectations a couple weeks ago of thinking that the Lions are the best that they could do would be 4 wins. I think right now, if they can at least get to 8-8, I'd be good with that. And anything above that is really gravy at this point, because of how far the pendulum can swing. You can be really bad, but you can also be really good. So if they can at least get to 500, I think that's really the benchmark. But if you do get in the playoffs and you actually maybe win a game there, then you're starting to see that this team is starting to grow, and Matthew Stafford is becoming one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL.
Now, Jason, they're doing some things late in games, and obviously with the talent that they have, they're not really going to blow out too many teams, but look at some of the things they're doing. All 7 of the games they have played have been decided by 7 points or fewer. No other team has done that in the entire NFL. So I'll ask you, do you think it's better to DVR the game and kind of go through it quickly, or watching it live? Do you find yourself being a little bit more stressed out? Because I feel like watching the Lions right now, I'm getting a little bit better at just kind of rolling with the punches, kind of tapering my expectations up until the fourth quarter, and then ramping up, kind of like a movie that hits its crescendo, where it's a little bit slow. I think it was 3-3 at halftime. You're going, oh my God, this is boring. What the hell's going on with the NFL? And then it kind of peaked where the Lions blew the lead, and then they come back where the finale is just amazing. And now the last, in terms of the last 3 games that they've won, we've come out with a good feeling. And so it is a little bit tough watching the Lions, because your anxiety level peaks around the third and fourth quarter watching what the hell this Lions team is going to do. But do you find yourself, after DVRing it and kind of just skipping through it, that it's a little bit easier for your nerves to watch the Lions?
I still had the same nerves, after every play, because I had.
What'd you think when Cousins faked the handoff and Hyder completely blew the coverage and he zooms into the end zone? Were you like, oh shit?
I mean, I was assuming that the game was over, and I didn't give up complete hope, because what I will say is that my wife wasn't in the bubble, but she didn't say anything to me, and I feel like that was almost an indication that something good was going to happen, because I want to say that if they were going to lose, or if they had lost, she probably would have told me, because that would have been an ultimate letdown to go through the entire game and then have it just end and have us lose. So I was I knew at that point that something probably had happened, but I'm a big proponent of watching a game live. If you can watch it live, I think that's the best way to watch it. But this is another good way. If you can stay off social media and off of ESPN on Sundays to kind of just block yourself out, it's a good way to watch a football game, because you can probably get through it in at least an hour and a half.
Yeah, exactly. You save time, and you're exactly right. The announcers are okay. I kind of like what Chris Spielman does. He does give a solid, he is a guy that has experience in the game. He kind of sees things from different angles, and he's not afraid to, make comments on plays that are negative, and make good comments on plays that are one well.
They were giving a lot of love to Brandon Scherf, the guard for Washington, that Iowa Hawkeye lineman. And just, dude, come on. You're talking about an offensive lineman. You're not talking about like the greatest guy ever. This is just, he happened to have gone to Iowa.
I see. I tape the games too to kind of go back and look at some things in terms of play calls, in terms of how they're using the timeouts, things like that. But something that you're noticing on offense, because we're going to definitely talk about the struggles on defense and what we can do to try to maybe improve the team going forward. But right now they're sitting at 3-0 in the second quarter of the season, and what you're seeing different in terms of the offense is Zach Zenner has been able to come in and is gaining yards going forward. He falls forward. He gets the tough yards. On average, they're running the ball 6 yards more per game this season. And something that you didn't expect that you would see with the Lions is when there's been an injury, it doesn't seem like it's, on offense, it doesn't seem like the injuries to Amir Abdullah, Theo Riddick, Eric Ebron have done a lot to kind of curtail the offensive juggernaut that the Detroit Lions are. So I'm wondering, obviously Eric Ebron probably is going to be returning in the next couple weeks. I'm going to be fascinated to see what they look like there. But, the emergence of Zach Zenner and, Forsett and what they're doing, it's been makeshift, but they've done a decent job. And that helps the passing game tremendously.
I think what you can also point to is that those are all specialized positions. You haven't had a major injury on your offensive line, which you can say all you want for them coming together and becoming a group, but you haven't had a major injury yet. Taylor Decker, Travis Swanson, Graham Glasgow, he's been really the only kind of substitution on there, and even Riley Reef for a little bit. They're becoming a cohesive line, which is able to provide a little bit of help for the running back, and in turn, having a running game that's actually going to get you some yards frees up Matthew Stafford. And I think you also can't deny that on this 3-game winning streak has finally seen the emergence of Golden Tate. That in the beginning of the season, Golden Tate was a non-factor, and finally at the end of when he caught that long pass and he caught the 2-point conversion in the game a couple of games ago, he finally started to become part of this offense again. And obviously he had the big week last week. He was a big contributor this week, whether he caught the ball or not. He just seems more into the game. And I think having Marvin Jones and Golden Tate working both for you, and you're getting stuff from your third and fourth and fifth running backs, and even talk about Andre Roberts. Andre Roberts can come up with a timely catch. You're just making it work. And I think it all just comes back to Matthew Stafford. Finally, Matthew Stafford is making players better. It's the first time that we've ever seen it. And maybe it is because we don't just have an all-star wide receiver on our team in Calvin Johnson, who is the best player on the team.
All right, so I'm Matt Stafford's agent. I'm starting the preliminary talks with you, Bob Quinn. Are you willing to ink a deal right now, today, as we record this podcast? Are you willing to ink a deal? Let's say, I know the specifics of the cap percentages, and I know that every year the cap goes up. And roughly speaking, Matthew Stafford is going to be between 15 and 17% of the total cap. Today, are you willing to ink Matthew Stafford 8-9 years, 24-25 million per, make him the quarterback of the future for the next decade? As we sit today, not knowing what he's going to do in the postseason, not knowing how he's going to lead this team, in the second half of this season in 2016. Are you willing to sign that big deal, start that talk?
I'm not 8-9.
There's talk about him being league MVP.
8-9 years is a little long, but what I am okay with, I'm okay with going for
number one paid quarterback.
Yeah, I think a 4 to 5 year deal, maybe with an option added onto that, at probably $24 to $25 million. Pretty much you're looking at 4 years, close to $100 million, maybe even add on bonuses for playoff wins or getting to an NFC championship or getting to a Super Bowl. I think that's the kind of deal that they should be looking at for Matthew Stafford, because you still are kind of protecting yourself just in case he reverts back to the quarterback that we've seen in years past. He's still going to get his money, but I think what I would offer him, what I'd feel comfortable, 4 years, $100 million. You're probably guaranteeing him at least $60 million, and you should feel comfortable with that. Because look at the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns have gone through 6 quarterbacks so far this year. You look at RG3, Josh McCown, Charlie Whitehurst, Terrell Pryor, Cody Kessler, and now Kevin Hogan. They've gone through 6 quarterbacks, and there's just such a premium right now on quarterbacks in this league. And if you can get a good one, you kind of have to hold on to them. So, like it or not, you're going to have to pay Matthew Stafford, because the only other alternative, the only other quarterback you have on your team right now is Dan Orlovsky, and Jake Rudock. Whether you're a Michigan slap or not, he's not the answer, at least right now, for this team. At the end of the season, what? You're going to try and go out and sign Ryan Fitzpatrick? Go out and draft a quarterback? Who are you going to draft who can come in and actually guide this team? Especially if we're looking like we're somewhat close to taking a step in this league.
Now, I want to taper my comments and, preface it by saying I'm really excited that the Lions are playing well. I'm watching each and every game. I'm really excited that the Lions are sitting here 4-3. I'm a huge fan of the Lions, but at the same time, I'm not riding the bandwagon wave that high because I go like this. And when I speak, I just try to go right from my brain out into the microphone. And so when I'm sitting here, when I was driving here to the studio, I was thinking, you know what? Matthew Stafford at this point in time is just doing his job. He's the number 1 overall pick. He's the starting quarterback now in, I believe, his 8th season playing quarterback. 100 starts. Not a lot of quarterbacks get that opportunity. And now while it's great that he's playing well, I go to myself, okay, I'm not going to give him too much credit for doing his job. This is what I expect. And do I believe that he's going to be the number 1 highest paid QB in the NFL? Yeah. Is it deserved? That can be debated. And when you sit here and have conversations about the Lions, you're making a really big decision because, you're going to tie up a lot of money and you're probably going to have to go with a New England style system where they have a lot of high-end talent, but they also have guys that, they sprinkle in and they've let go of guys that have been productive.
But they don't let go of their franchise quarterback.
Exactly. So you're going to have Stafford, and then you're going to try to fill in the pieces around him. And like you've seen now, you're not going to have a guy like probably Calvin Johnson again making that much money. So, and I'm starting to trust in Bob Quinn in that he's able to maybe scour the landscape and in the draft and start the process of building a team and a solid system. But now when you say, how do you judge Matthew Stafford now? I say to myself, you cannot discount the fact that he has no playoff wins. Now, you can say that it's a team game. He hasn't had a running game, the offensive line. Those arguments are very fair. But what I say is we have to take into account that Matthew Stafford's been in this position before. He's thrown for 5,000 yards. He had a nickname, Stat Patford. He's had numbers galore. He's played well before. Everyone's acting like Matthew Stafford's come out of the ashes and was dead before and never did anything. You guys remember 11-5, a playoff berth versus Dallas? Yes, we were screwed, but in the end, the Lions had the ball late in the fourth quarter, and the Lions were driving, and Matthew Stafford and the offense didn't get it done. Now, are you willing to drop $25 million a year, 8 years or 6 years, 7 years, 8 years, whatever it's going to be, the term of the deal, without ever getting to a postseason and have a victory? I think you need to see, and just be excited with what the Lions are doing, but my opinion is you have to add an incomplete portion of this evaluation to see how he performs. Now, I'm gonna change my thinking a little bit. I'm not gonna expect the win. I just want to see him perform at this level in the postseason. If he goes out there, flings the ball all around, doesn't turn it over, finding the right receiver, not being a gunslinger, and playing like this in the postseason, win or lose this year, if they get to if they have that opportunity and he performs in the postseason and plays his part like he's been doing, and he rides this wave into a playoff game and performs that way, that's my guy. That's my quarterback. Okay. So I'm just add that to the evaluation before you start going, oh my God, this is the greatest quarterback of all time, number 1 Lion, all that stuff. You have to add that component of how he does when the pressure is doubled. In the regular season, you're playing, remember these last 3 games, they're playing the crumb bums of the NFL. Washington, the Rams. Come on now, you're not playing top NFL talent.
So I don't think you actually heard exactly what I said. You asked me if right now today you would make him the highest paid quarterback. And I said, yes, I would do it for 4 or 5 years, which I think that is reasonable because that's as well as he's played right now. If you wait right at this point and we actually go into the postseason, let's say we win 2 games.
The price goes up.
The price goes up. Now you actually have to pay him 6, 7, 8 years, at least $25 million. Do
you think Stafford will take a hometown discount?
He might. You never know. The guy has been a stand-up guy so far. And I'm not sure if he's been one of those players who's taken one of those salary negotiations in the offseason so he can sign more players. But I could totally see him. If Bob Quinn sits down with him and says, "Hey, can we work this deal out so I don't know, we get a front loaded or a back loaded contract so we can actually bring more players in and have a better chance to win right now." I think Matthew Stafford would do that because I think what he's focused on winning. Obviously he's going to get paid, but I think his ultimate goal is to win a Super Bowl.
You're absolutely right. All I'm saying is just add that caveat to the evaluation. That's all. In that there's been there is an inner debate going on between fans in terms of the haters of Matthew Stafford versus the supporters, and it's going back and forth. Where every time Stafford maybe throws a pick or doesn't play well, then the haters come out and are like, "See." And then when he wins games like this now, 4 games in the late portion of the games, they're like, "See, look, we were all we supported Stafford all along, and all you haters are stupid."
I can't stand those people.
It's going back and forth.
I see all those people on Facebook, and they're like, "See, although you Matthew Stafford haters, oh yeah, he's not Pat Stafford anymore." Like, come on, it's a team game. Yeah, be happy for him. Don't call out the people who are hating. They had legitimate reasons to be hateful.
And I think a lot of people at this point in time have the opinion that they're waiting to see how this season progresses in totality, and they're not really willing to get super excited about what they're seeing because they're only 4-3. They're still got to play tough teams on the road, and you got to do some things going forward. So I had a conversation with someone over Twitter, and he said that they're going to play New Orleans, Minnesota, Houston on the road, and let's see how they perform. And I agree wholeheartedly. The Lions have to go out now. Now you've played some teams at home. You've taken advantage of the situation that you had 3 home games at Ford Field. Now go on the road, go at Houston, and do the job.
So are you saying then if Matthew Stafford was good to take a 4-year deal right now, 4 or 5 year deal to make him the highest paid quarterback, you wouldn't do that right now?
I'd be trying for the hometown discount, and I'd also, I'd be really hesitant to make him number one.
That is the hometown discount right now.
The hometown
4
discount?
years, $25 million. That's the hometown discount, because if we wait and we win, then you're looking at 6-7 years, probably $26, $27 million, a bunch guaranteed. So would you take that or no? Are you waiting?
I would take it. I mean, if you're saying today, do you sign the deal? I sign the deal, but I'm a little bit nervous. I'm not signing it, walking away and sipping champagne. I'm walking away having maybe a light beer.
That's fine.
I'm not popping the bottle.
So you are signing. You're on my side.
I agree with you. I think Stafford's playing well.
Thank you. You're trying to make me the bad guy.
No, I'm just having the debate that you need
I saw the Twitter thing you said. You said, I'm the one who says that sign him right now. You want to sign him too.
I do as well. I want him as my quarterback. I'm willing to ride the roller coaster with this guy. He's got composure. He's got a lot of intangibles that you need. It's just one of those things where he's a great student. I just need him to ace the final. That's all. I just need him to, you can't be an A-B student in the, on the test and then come to the finals and then flunk. And especially when the final is like 60 to 70% of your grade. You know what I mean? He's studious. He's a good, upstanding citizen. He's doing what he's got to do. He's led a lot of comeback drives, and I just need to see something in the postseason. I need that payoff. And I'm hoping maybe, with the Cubs and the Indians in the World Series.
Shut up.
The Cavaliers hoisted the NBA title trophy. Why not the Lions, man? Maybe this is the funky year where some of the curses get erased.
That's ridiculous, but whatever.
Okay, but I want to
bring that up.
I know everybody's going to give a lot of credit to Matthew Stafford, but you have to give credit again to Jim Bob Cooter and that offensive system, and you have to really give credit to Bob Quinn and the scouting department for really taking a chance on Anquan Boldin. It wasn't a super big risk with the contract, a 1-year deal, but what he brings to the team is a security blanket, a guy with NFL experience, a huge body, a guy that really is reliable, a guy that's well known for his reliability, his sure-handedness, and that play in the end zone was a solid play. That touchdown that he scored in the fourth quarter, that play, that chemistry you can start to see with Matthew Stafford is unbelievable. And Anquan Boldin deserves a lot of credit because he's done some things, and he's come in as a free agent and now has scored a touchdown in consecutive games. And you start to say, okay, now you lost your tight end. You thought that the absence of Eric Ebron was going to be a big deal, the loss of Theo Riddick. Anquan Boldin, Marvin Jones, Golden Tate, that unit offensively is starting to gel. And the addition of bringing in a guy like an Anquan Boldin that can help the younger cats too, in terms of teaching them route running, how to prepare, and his effect in that locker room, he deserves a lot of credit.
Totally. And I loved the signing. Anquan Boldin is so sure-handed. And I mean, we, as Lion fans, we witnessed it firsthand. His first career game, it was the Charles Rogers year, where Anquan Boldin, I think he had like 2 touchdowns in his first game against the Lions. So we've seen it for years. Anquan Boldin has been a great wide receiver. he is in the twilight of his career, but he still has juice left as a third wide receiver. And he was brought in and he's accepted that role. And I think he almost fills that Eric Ebron role better than Eric Ebron, because he runs those same routes and he runs them perfectly. And he's so better sure-handed than Eric Ebron. So I think he fills a great role. Andre Roberts, even, I think he's kind of that other slot receiver that you can throw underneath routes, throw it 5 yards, maybe get 10, 15 yards out of it. And I would have actually been interested to see what Jeremy Curley would have done on this team, because Jeremy Curley was the guy who was slotted to be the number 3 wide receiver. Then you bring in Anquan Boldin late and essentially takes Jeremy Curley's role. You see Jeremy Curley now, he's probably either the number 1 or number 2 wide receiver in San Francisco. So it would have been interesting to see what he would have done. But I think if you had to, obviously it's no choice between Anquan Boldin and Jeremy Curley. I think you have to go Anquan Boldin every day because of the experience that he has. Jeremy Curley may have a few more years left in him, but Anquan Boldin gives us the better chance to win immediately.
With the Lions, the good thing is there's room for improvement. You saw in the game versus Washington, they botched several plays when they were in Washington territory. You settled for field goals instead of progressing and earning some first downs on some key third down plays. And we have to also take note that, Matt Prater sprinkling some field goals here a little bit, missing some chip shots as we come to expect that he should make up. And I know after hearing what happened in, the Arizona-Seattle game, field goal kicking is very important. Field position is important. So the offense is not like there's room for improvement on that offense. Now, the big question that everyone's looking at is, okay, this defense is, inconsistent. They're injury plagued. We watch and we go, okay, they make some mistakes at some key moments. Now, maybe Darius Slay might be nursing a hamstring injury. Ziggy Ansah's come back, and he's starting to look like his old self, but he's still injured. DeAndre Levy has been a question mark. And so, the future of this team, you look at where they can improve the most, it's on the defensive side of the football. Do you see them progressing as a unit or staying like this and just being like bend almost all the way but not break? And as long as their job basically is not going to be to shut everybody down, but to help keep the game as close as humanly possible so the offense has a chance.
Yeah,
you see any improvement on that defense at all?
I'm not sure. I just think maybe a little bit of improvement. You got to hope that guys get healthy, but I just don't see a ton of improvement. It's really going to be a lot of games like the past couple of weeks and really the entire season. They're all going to be close. I'm not sure if our defense, it's not going to be a shutdown defense this year. Like you see, we do have the ability to make big stops, which is really good. I mean, there are times when we, on like a 3rd and 20, you give up a bad passing play, but we also have seen when it's 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, if you need a big stuff and they run the ball at the middle, our interior line can actually get a stop. So once again, the defensive line is our strong point for our defense right now, where last season I think it was almost a weakness, and the defensive backs really kind of made up for that. So we need to grow in our linebackers, and I mean that also it's been severely hindered by no DeAndre Levy, no Kyle Van Noy, no John Bostic, and with the defensive backs now with Darius Slay out, it's a work in progress. And I think you said it best. I think all season it's going to be bend as far as possible and try and keep the Lions in games so the Lions don't have to just rally back from too many touchdowns down.
Okay, what's good to hear is now when you watch national shows as well, in terms of on NFL Network, First Take, Undisputed, they're talking about Matthew Stafford in glowing terms, and they're starting to look at the entire year that he's had now, from the second half of last year to the first half of this year. It's been unbelievable, and it's nice to see that a guy like Matthew Stafford has come around and is earning some respect. And so let's just peek in and listen to what the folks, good show, Good Morning Football on NFL Network. Let's peek into what they were saying about the Lions and giving respect to Matthew Stafford, because one of their hosts, Peter Schrager, is in Detroit every single week, and what a grueling grind for that guy to be in L.A. for, I think, a 7 a.m. show and then coming into Detroit on the weekend. So let's see what they're saying and peek in that before we go to break.
We're talking a lot about Aaron Rodgers. We give Tom Brady a lot of love on this show. I'm going to say it right here. Matt Stafford is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. He might be the best.
Peter, it was huge at the time, and I know it raised eyebrows. I know it made waves both on Twitter and in Detroit.
Yeah.
You make the trip to Detroit this weekend. You were there in person. Are you still feeling that way? Obviously, after that, you must
I was
be.
so surprised by the reaction to that comment. I show up in Detroit, and it's in the Detroit Free Press. Dave Burkett has a whole article about it, and moreover, people thought I said the world was flat or something.
Yeah.
Even in Detroit.
Even in Detroit. Yeah. Yet he continues to do this. He throws the team on his back. Guys, look through the first 100 games of his career. If you look at the numbers of what Matt Stafford is doing, he is first all-time in completions, first all-time in passing yards, and first all-time in I mean, it's not like this is a flash in the pan. He's been building towards this, and when Calvin Johnson went down, I think a lot of people wrote this team off. He's gotten better without Calvin Johnson. He's doing this, Kyle, without Theo Riddick. All right, Theo Riddick's an incredible back in the backfield. He is without Amir Abdullah, without Dwayne Washington. We're talking about Zach Zenner and Justin Forsett, who still has cobwebs on him off the couch, and they continue to win. You saw the game-winning drives. I just think that as a country, we don't talk about the Lions enough because they're in Detroit. It's kind of a team that isn't usually winning. But we have to give respect to Matthew Stafford and the Lions right now. They've won us of 3 straight games, and he is playing better football than any quarterback in the NFL. I will double down on that because I'm seeing it every week.
Peter, there's something funny, I think, that fans do where they make up their minds on quarterbacks. And
I mean, it's all stats, which I think that's the crazy part, is that everything he said is absolutely true. And you can say that part of those stats are because it was in the Pat Stafford years. It was all garbage time. But I think just on the eye test of what we've seen in this season, and even if you want to go back to last season, which I don't hold a lot of merit for because it's an entirely different season. But just from this season, his growth is, to quote possibly our future president, Donald Trump, tremendous.
Winning bigly. Win.
Bigly.
We're going to win. We're going to win so big.
He drove down the field bigly.
All right.
Nasty woman.
It's just nice for a week or so to talk about the Lions with the words respect, MVP, win streak, positivity, believe. It's nice because, don't worry, within a game or two, we'll probably be talking about something crazy because, most people thought this was a 9-win team max, and we'll see how this goes. But if your heart can take it, definitely tune into the Lions. 1 o'clock Sunday, Houston on the road, and Matthew Stafford will have an opportunity to really, Houston's got 4 wins as well on the season. It'll be an interesting
they have
matchup.
4 wins, but I don't really understand how they win.
And one of the keys
doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
And one of the keys is that they're playing on Monday night, and it's always hard to come back on Sunday after playing on Monday night. So I'm thinking victory. I'm thinking the Lions are going to go 5-3 at the halfway point. So
I think so too, and that would put them on pace to get to 10-6. And just look at the Texans. They beat the Colts in overtime, lost to the Vikings. They beat the Titans, lost to the Patriots, barely beat the Chiefs. They beat the Bears, which doesn't really matter. So I think Texans, it's a very winnable game. I think if you would have said that this was a full power Texans with J.J. Watt, I would say you're in trouble. But I think their defense isn't as formidable as we've seen. So I think you got a real chance going down to Houston.
All right, let's take a quick timeout, come back, and unfortunately, Jason's wearing the bright green. Green and white is under attack. It's going to be tough to really hype up this game versus Michigan, but we'll try our best. Two Sparty guys here trying our absolute best to find any silver lining for this 2016 Michigan State team. We'll figure it out and try to talk our way through it because everyone's looking like this is going to be an ass whooping of epic proportions. I don't want to see it, so I'm working 12-3 on Saturday. I'm gonna go quote unquote in the bubble.
Good. I'll text you and I'll let you know what's happening. You're listening to the Motor City Sports Rant on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
That's right, Jason. You're listening to the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. We're a podcast dedicated to Detroit sports. We got daily shows dedicated to all things going around town in the world of Detroit sports. We got Detroit Lions-specific podcasts. We got Detroit Tigers-specific podcasts. Great coverage dedicated to hockey, Michigan football. The Pistons are starting up. So in order to support us, go visit DetroitSportsPodcast.com. It's how we keep the lights on in the office. It's how we keep these microphones hot. We greatly appreciate everybody that's been downloading this podcast. You can find us on iTunes, Podomatic, Stitcher, Podbay, anywhere at all that you can find podcasts. All you got to do is search Detroit Sports Podcast. And some news, Jason. The Detroit Sports Podcast Network this year will be working with the University of Detroit Mercy, covering the basketball games, so we'll have increased presence there. I'm going to learn a whole heck of a lot about basketball this year and maybe be the preeminent force in basketball coverage, in college basketball coverage around town. What do you think about that?
Ooh.
Thank you so much again for your support. It's greatly appreciated. DetroitSportsPodcast.com.
Jump man, let me tell you something. Beyonce danced the circle, look what I accomplished. Niggas talk a bunch of nothing, then they don't do nothing. Chop a bullet, hit his body, it look like he crumping. Jump man, these niggas be something.
Motor City Sports Rant, Detroit Sports Podcast Network. We're back. We got some Jumpman going because the Jumpman is going to be flying in East Lansing on Saturday, and it's going to be very sad.
Oh, man. Well, unfortunately, before we talk about what's going to happen in East Lansing, noon, Saturday, October 29th, I know all the Sparty fans are just dialing up YouTube and typing in trouble with the snap.
Oh, trouble with the snap.
I'm not going to lie, that definitely helps each and every time the Spartans go out there and get waxed by a team and they don't perform well. It definitely helps to relive a little bit of the past. But yeah, this year is probably going to be a tough loss, and we're going to talk about that relatively quickly. But I did want to get your opinions because, unfortunately, some sad news in the Detroit sports scene. Drew Sharp passed away suddenly in his sleep, and it was something that when everyone started, tweeting about it and the news broke, everyone was kind of shocked because he was so young. I believe 56 years old.
56 years old, yep.
And you at the station had the opportunity to produce a couple of the shows that he worked with Matt Derry. Matt Derry and Drew Sharp did a radio show on Detroit Sports 105.1. And it was a very interesting show. Had a lot of hot takes. Had a lot of debatable comments. Obviously Drew had his comments and takes about the Big Ten, Michigan. And if you look on his Twitter page, even in the year they got to the college football playoff, his last tweet was "State still sucks." So he was a very controversial figure in town, and you got a chance to work with him. Everybody's spoken about him as a man. What was it like to produce a show that he was on?
It was always interesting when we were in the studio. He was pretty quiet. He was usually keeping to himself. I think he was a pretty busy guy. He wrote an article and he had a radio show every day to get to. But as far as sports takes, I didn't always agree with him. But I think that's something that you kind of need. It almost doesn't work out if in sports talk that you just agree with one another. If our podcast was you saying something and me saying, "Oh yeah, I completely agree," and not having anything to come back with, that wouldn't be a very interesting show. And I thought Drew, even if you didn't agree with him, I think he at least spoke the truth and he made you think about it differently. If Michigan is doing good right now, I would love to get his take on Michigan State for this upcoming game, because I think he would probably give it hard to Michigan fans, because even though he went to Michigan, he was their biggest critic. So I think, we lost an interesting sports writer and a very good journalist. And I mean, we lost even a better person, because even if you couldn't agree with him, if you did know him, the guy was a good guy. He was always friendly to me, and he would always, every now and then, his wife would bake some cookies or something and bring him into the station, and they were delicious. But he was a good guy, and it's a tragic loss so suddenly, so young. And my condolences go out to the Sharp family and all of the rest of his friends.
Exactly. The same sentiment is expressed from me and everybody at the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. Now, I had an opportunity to try to book him to be on the one-on-one special, and we joke around a little bit. And I'd say, "Hey, what's it like working with Jason?" And every time he'd say, joking around, he'd say, "Oh, man, whenever Jason I knew was going to produce the show," he'd be like,
"Why? This is bad."
You're funny, guy. You're a funny jokester, John. Thanks a lot.
I'm just teasing. You know, that's what you do with your producers. You got to rib them, you got to make fun of them, and things like that. Although he never came on the Detroit Sports Podcast, everybody that speaks of him as a person speaks very highly of him, and it will be a void that it'll be tough to fill in the Detroit landscape. And the one thing that you realize was he worked at the Free Press exclusively. That was his journalistic job, and everyone that spoke about him as a person spoke that they wish that more people would have known him the person as opposed to really formulating your opinion of him based upon what he wrote about.
That's the one thing, is I think too many people took Drew Sharp, the journalist, and because he was very cynical on Detroit teams, and a lot of people just saw him as a hater. If you actually knew the person, I think you would think differently. I think it would really only take one meeting. If you ever met the guy, I can't think that you would have the same, you wouldn't think about him the same way, because it's two separate people. I think you have the sports journalist who is questioning everything, and then you have the person.
All right. And then it was very interesting that his last assignment that he had prior to passing away, he was going to be at the Michigan State-Maryland game, and both the Maryland SIDs and the staff there and the Lions held his last credential there for him and placed flowers and were very respectful of the man. And I would have been very interested to see and hear what he would have wrote about this Michigan State team after the performance on Saturday, because is there any way for us, Jason, as Sparty fans, this office is lined with, the Sparty logo, the Block S. Is there any way for us to avoid an ass-kicking on Saturday? Because that's what's going around. Every analyst, a lot of the talking heads, everybody that's doing podcasts and reporting on the game is really struggling to find any angle to say, unless, a freak injury happens to Lewis or Peppers this week in practice, Michigan's going to roll in East Lansing noon, and by 4 o'clock, the numbers might look crooked.
Yeah, and the only thing you could hope for is that this is after so many losses in a row. I mean, what are we? We're 2-5 right now?
5 in a row, brother. After
we've lost 5 in a row.
And it seemed like, you know what it is? It seemed like the spirit of Michigan State was just sucked out of them in the second half versus Notre Dame. It seemed like once Notre Dame started the pushback, Michigan State has lost its mojo. And a loss to Maryland on the road.
So, I mean, with these 5 straight losses, you get the only hope that you can take going into this game is that this is what everybody's looking at. Is in seasons past, we were looking past Michigan, and we were always looking at the bigger picture of looking at getting to the Big Ten championship, winning that game, and then getting to either the Rose Bowl or the college football playoff. This season, that's not even in the question. Right now, the only thing that we have to hope for is Michigan. That's pretty much the only thing that you could ever hang your hat on.
The main event.
So
the Super Bowl. That's it. This is it.
The best thing you could do is try to keep it close. And you look at what Wisconsin did against Michigan. They lost 14-7. And I think that is best case scenario, is that you're able to keep it close, and maybe you have a freak play at the end of the game again, where you get a late touchdown, you go up late, and Michigan just isn't able to recover. And you gotta do it the entire game, and you can't let Michigan get into this game and get in a rhythm. And I mean, if they get up by 2 touchdowns in the first quarter, it's pretty much over at that point.
Exactly. And when everyone's starting to look around and going, what the hell's going on with Michigan State? All you got to look to is, if your best players, they should be juniors and seniors. When you look at the senior leadership, Riley Bullock cannot start the game with 3 personal foul penalties. You get ejected for a targeting call, whether you believe it's questionable or not. He still had those penalties earlier in the game. Something's going on with Riley Bullock. The senior leadership for Michigan State hasn't been up to par, and so that's why you see this team struggle. That's why you see whenever there's a situation when a key play needs to be made, the Spartans don't make it right now. And the decision to go back and forth with Lewerke and O'Connor has been, I'm not really sure that D'Antonio made the right call in terms of pulling O'Connor, not because Lewerke's better, but I think O'Connor still gives you the chance to be in most games. Lewerke, he is what you see in a lot of freshman quarterbacks that don't have a lot of experience. First read, if it's not there, boom, he's running. And it's just something where, the drives are stalling more often than not. He's not ready. He's got talent. You can see some things. You can see the framework of a quarterback, but it just sucks that we had to burn him out this year when you should have just really, if you're going to lose, ride it out with Tyler O'Connor.
Or try the other quarterbacks you got. Try Damian Terry. I want to see Messiah DeWeaver. He was the big guy to come in, and we haven't seen him at all. I saw him in the green-white game, and he looked pretty good. And I think what happened before with Connor Cook is it took time to make that decision. And Connor Cook clearly rose to the cream of the crop. He was the number one quarterback. And you've tried Tyler O'Connor. He hasn't worked. You've tried Brian Lewerke, and he really hasn't worked. So keep going. If this is a rebuilding year, try what you have. Unless you're trying to save a red shirt, which if that's what you're doing, I get it. But I think that's kind of lame. But this season is a wash, and you just kind of have to hope that Michigan doesn't pound it too hard into us.
Yeah, so...
though, another bright side, I just looked at the forecast for East Lansing on Saturday. It is scheduled to rain. I'm not sure if it's going to rain at noon or throughout that game, but definitely if it's a raining game, then things might look a little bit better for Michigan State. Or at least you got to hope that it's all on the ground and that you just are able to slug it out. But even then, if it is a ground game, I mean, you look at what Michigan did this week against Illinois. They rushed the ball 59 times, which, good gracious, that's a lot. That's rushing the ball a ton. And I hate Jim Harbaugh. I hate him so much. I hate the stupid lineup play where it's a single line and then they all spread out. It pisses me off, and it pisses me off that Michigan's winning. It's just so disappointing. This season is so disappointing.
5 straight losses. We haven't seen some of the things that... Listen, when we say have a setback year, a transition year, we thought that meant 2 or 3 losses, not 5 losses.
In a row.
5 losses in a row. Everything looks terrible. The momentum's down. Now, I would ask you, because it's a talking point, and some people are doing it. Obviously there's ticket prices, and there's going to be a demand for Michigan fans to be there, because if this plays out to what people are thinking, a lot of Michigan fans would be there. So let's say you have 2 tickets and, face value is $50 each. So you got 2 tickets, that's $100 face value. Let's say a Michigan guy, a contact, an email pops up in your, iPhone there when you're not looking at adult content, pops up and it goes, hey, I'll offer you $300 for your $100 face value tickets. You sell those tickets?
Hell yeah.
To a Michigan fan? To a Michigan fan. That's the caveat. You would sell your tickets to a person will be wearing your in your seat in a predominantly maybe green section, block M, maize and blue. You do that?
So in my situation, so if I had no issue with money and I was like, I'm just loaded, then no, I'm not going to sell it to a Michigan fan. But in my situation, if I'm spending my hard-earned money that it's already gone, it's sunk into these tickets, I'm still hurting for cash, and Michigan State having an awful season, and we're more than likely going to get ran out of our own house by our rivals. If somebody, you're going to tweet this, aren't you? You're such a dick. If
I'm asking you a straight question,
if I need the money, yes, I will pay. I will give me what? So I'd get $600 for 2 tickets. Yeah, give me the money, because I need that money. I need to pay rent.
Okay, I'm saying I would not do it. It would have to be somebody. I would set the caveat: don't wear maize and blue there. And if you want to support, don't tell me who you're supporting, but don't wear the colors. That might get me to sell the tickets, whatever it may be, over face value. I'm not saying that I wouldn't consider it, but I might have some rules or some things going on there. But
so you're telling me if you needed to make your braces payments for your girls in a couple years, and somebody's going to give you a ton of money for 2 tickets, that you wouldn't do that in a second?
I would look for at least someone that was an MSU supporter, but it's going to be hard pressed because everyone's abandoning ship. But
not for that price of money. If I don't care if it's a Michigan fan, whatever. If Michigan State's going to win, they're going to win regardless of those people are there or not.
No, I agree. It's all about the dollars because...
And frankly, I would love it if all those Michigan fans went to those games and they packed the stands and then Michigan State actually upsets them.
Yeah.
Because that would be even more better.
I'm telling you, wouldn't that be?
Bigly.
Let's play, let's say, for example, Michigan State wins this game. Do you think this win versus the number 2 Michigan team, with all the hype and coming in, undefeated, would be better than the late game heroics of what happened last year with trouble with the snap? Whatever kind of victory it is, trouble with the snap
I think
is
trouble
tough.
with the snap that's one of that goes down in history. That goes down in history with the Little Giants game of against Notre Dame. I think it would have to be in epic fashion of like a late Hail Mary touchdown for Michigan State to win to even try and trump last year's win.
Yeah, it's going to be, by all accounts, everyone's looking at this game to be a rout. It could be the coming out party if U of M wants to showcase Jabril Peppers. He could walk away with a couple interceptions, some spectacular tackles. He could be coming up on the line. He could be playing running back, wide receiver, linebacker, safety. He could, get a punt return. Literally, what we're hoping as Spartan fans that the rivalry game means a lot to these guys, and Michigan State performs well. And the key is you're going to have to hope that Michigan makes mistakes. Michigan, if they play their best game and State plays their best game, I still give a touchdown edge to Michigan. But if there's some mistakes, best versus best, Michigan's probably a 1-touchdown team better. Best versus best, where everybody's playing at their peak capacity, Michigan is the better football team right now. You have to admit that. But if Spate comes in and is a little bit, overwhelmed by the moment, makes some mistakes, and Michigan State ups their defensive pressure, they make tackles, they throw in some new schemes that he's not seen before, then you have an opportunity, maybe if you get one pick six or you get some turnovers in your favor, and if this weather situation plays out, you have a chance to keep it close and make a couple key plays late. But that's wishing for a lot of things to happen.
I'm not even that. I don't see Michigan's offense. The offense doesn't really scare me. Our defense is bad, so it's going to make them look better than they actually are. But the biggest difference in teams is the defense. Michigan's defense is a shut there. I think right now they are ranked number 1 in the nation. So you're going up against the number 1 defense with an offense who already they can't put up points against Maryland. So to go up against the number 1 team in the nation in defense, it's going to be a struggle. So that's why I think this may not be. Hopefully we can keep it close. 21-3. That would I'd be okay with that because it wouldn't be a complete blowout. But if you get into some situations, maybe the defense scores a touchdown. Maybe Jabril Peppers runs one back on punt return. I think we can keep it close, but I don't think we can win. And on Jabril Peppers, is he that good? Is he really a Heisman candidate? What has he really done to just say, oh, he's the best in the nation? He's not Charles Woodson. So how could Jabril Peppers actually win the Heisman?
Well, he's got speed. He makes up.
Oh, he's fast.
He's fast.
You know who else was fast? Denard Robinson.
Well, he's playing on an undefeated team. He's got a little bit of advantage on a hype machine, and he's obviously done some things on punt returns that people are going, whoa. He's a guy that people are looking at as potential, NFL star quality, and they're seeing the fact that him in combination with Jordan Lewis are, in terms of the fact that you have to go out there and play these bad teams, are shutting people out with ridiculous numbers in terms of comparisons. The Michigan's offense has like 500-600 yards versus 100 yards of offense for the opponents. They're holding their opponents to, not even getting first downs. So you got to give him credit, and he's taking a leadership role on this team. But you could even argue that he's not the best. He's not the best guy, on his own team. Jordan Lewis and Stribling have made them name for themselves.
Yeah, I'm not really sold on him. I think he could get burnt out in the NFL pretty quick. And also, for Michigan fans, do you think they feel a little cheated that finally in their big season that they don't get to spoil Michigan State season? Obviously, I think if they come in and they just wreck Michigan State, they're still going to be excited. But
yeah, I think a lot of fans are just not really looking at that. And I think a lot of Michigan fans are super duper excited that Ohio State lost over the weekend to Penn State in shocking fashion. Literally, these field goal kickers and getting their kicks blocked and going back for a touchdown is such a momentum killer. It's unbelievable. Penn State comes back. They block the Ohio State field goal attempt. They take it all the way to the house. Penn State, the whole entire stadium is rocking. They come away with the victory. But it might be in some weird way really, really bad for Michigan that Ohio State lost because now they know
they need to win.
They win out. If they win out, they're in.
Needs to win.
They're going to and so Michigan State lost a game, remember, when they got to the college football playoff. So as long as you have one loss and you win the Big Ten and you win the Big Ten title game, most of the time that team is going to be in the playoff.
Yeah, I would be worried because, I mean, regardless, if both teams
But Ohio State's luster has gone down a bit where you before that loss, you would say, I don't think Michigan has enough. But with what you saw, what Penn State was able to do to Ohio State, if you rattle them, then you have an opportunity to kind of sneak in there and make some plays. They're not infallible. That's what Penn State showed you. You can now look at the film and see what you can do to kind of limit Ohio State and make some plays.
Well, I think Urban Meyer is going to take this game, and they're going to be ready to go once they go up against Michigan. They're going to be at home. It's going to be a very tough game for Michigan to win, and it will be the true test for their season, really. If they can get past Ohio State, then they're more than likely going to be in the college football playoff.
Yeah, so as we sit here recording this on Monday afternoon, I'm looking at Michigan State scoring 14 and Michigan scoring 31. 31-14. Michigan will win. It'll be close. I don't think that Michigan State will allow Michigan to run up and down the field. If Michigan is going to play well, remember the key stat that dictates what happens in these games is who's going to win the running battle. I think Michigan has the advantage, and so you might look at a situation where they run the ball quite a bit in the second half if they're up a little bit, and you'll see Michigan State turning the ball back to Michigan on punts. You might see record number of punts from Michigan State this year. But all we can say is it's going to be a competitive game. I'll be working in the studio. I will be perusing the Twitter a little bit, but I'm not looking favorable. I'm excited because Saturday will be an exhibition game for UDM. Going to go down there and see what's going on with Titan basketball in the evening.
Ooh, hey now. Yeah, I think my prediction, I'm going to go Michigan State 20. So, I mean, you're getting a bunch of field goals.
Okay.
And Michigan 24.
24-20 Michigan.
I think Michigan State, because it is a rivalry game, and because this is your season, to the pride of your season, your dignity, that they will keep it close. And more than likely, I think they're going to be coming back late. They'll get it to 20-24. Maybe they get the ball back, and then they're just not able to get it done because that Michigan defense is better. So Michigan still gets the win. Silver lining for Saturday is we will be celebrating my brother's birthday, and we're going to have a ton of appetizers, which is going to be delicious.
What are you looking forward to?
I'm looking forward
Wings
to
in a blanket.
My sister-in-law is making this like sausage beer dip, which is delicious, awesome, amazing. My wife is going to be making some meatballs, some barbecue meatballs. I'm going to make my cheese dip. Oh, it's going to be delightful.
Ooh, you make cheese dip?
I do. It's the simple, like everybody asks for it, and it's the simplest thing ever. I used to call, like, the first couple times I made it with beer, and so everybody calls, oh, bring your beer dip. I don't put beer in it anymore. It was way too many steps before, and now it's just the super easy. It's essentially a cheesy ranch dip, but it's awesome.
It's awesome.
And you get those little square pretzels with the grid. Awesome.
Man, go green, go white. Part of me feels like, as we're talking about this, as you wrap up the show, it's kind of like, a team waiting to be executed. And Saturday is D-Day, and we're trying to find any way to stay this execution, whether it be the weather, whether it be some miraculous pardon. Michigan State needs to be pardoned in any way possible for whatever they've done, because everyone's looking at it like they've hyped it up so that Michigan State has like abused Michigan, and now the day of reckoning has come where Michigan is going to absolve all of their ills on Michigan State for all the past mistakes. And it just feels weird. Going into the game, it feels so weird that this is what's going on with Michigan State. And I'm just hoping that in any way, because, dude, if there was ever a game where you just ball out, play the absolute best, some miraculous way, it would be great. It would be one of the all-time great victories in the rivalry. We get a chance for another year to celebrate and to really wreck Michigan's season. So I implore you, Spartans, if there's anything left that you have in the tank, if you can just put together one performance this year, the season is absolved if you can beat Michigan. I know it's kind of a loser's mentality, but hey, everybody knows when you're on the side of the rivalry, having been a state student, that we just love to crush Michigan, and it would make my year if Michigan State could do it. So let's go green, go white. if you're going to lose, just lose close.
Yep.
All right, let's get out of here, brother.
Before we get out here, we got the World Series just starting today as this podcast comes out. You got the Chicago Cubs, who haven't won a World Series in 108 years. You got the Cleveland Indians. What, it's been like 70 years for them?
I got the Indians in 7. It's gonna
Indians, come on,
Indians
man.
in 7. And I'll, if you wanna know something, this whole love for the Cubs from Detroit is sick. You know, literally I could hear.
How can you love the Indians?
I don't love the Indians.
Yeah, you do.
I watch the Indians.
You want them to win.
No, I did not say I'm rooting. I'm not rooting for anybody. I'm pissed off. I tweeted that over the weekend. It seemed like, when the game was over, it seemed like half of Detroit was singing "Go Cubs, go." What the fuck? No. Everyone's like, "Oh, go Cubs! This is great." I'm like, the Tigers had a chance to hire Tito or Joe Madden, and we got Brad Ausmus. I'm pissed and looking at my squad. I'm not there clapping, rooting for the Cubs. I know that they're a little bit young in certain areas. They have a strong pitching core. It's going to be who does well in the pitching matchup. You do kind of have a feel of a team of destiny kind of thing going on with these Cubs, but I just think that the Indians, if they play up to their capability, they're going to be a super tough out. They feature strong pitching and a bullpen that rivals nobody. And Andrew Miller, if he plays at that level, is going to be tough. So I got, as we sit here, Indians in 7, and I'm going to enjoy each. And now I'm going to up the price that you're going to pay for this meal you got to pay. Because
you're a hater. Indians. You want to root for another team in the AL Central to win before your Tigers? You're a jerk.
You think the Cubs then? How many games? Cubs in what?
I think Cubs in 6.
Cubs in 6?
I think Cubs in 6. I think Cleveland's able to steal away 2 games. Maybe the games that they play in Cleveland. But I want the Cubs to win. I want them to
go Cubs go.
I'm not singing.
I like that song. That was cool.
But I think they're the better story. It's I hate to see a team lose so many years. It's like Boston before. I feel for it because I'm the Lions.
Go Cubs go. Duh, we don't blow. We'll see what happens. It's going to be a great series.
Hater.
Indians in 7. You heard it here.
You're such a nasty woman, John.
Yeah. Very good. Everyone knows me. That's my nickname, Bad Hombre.
Nasty woman. That's a new nickname.
All right, let's get out of here.
Okay, that does it for this episode of the More City Sports Rant. I'm going to go slap John across the table once we end this recording. But for John Maccarin, I'm Jason Jarvie. Later.
Okay, nice idiot. You. Bye-bye.
Toodaloo, motherfucker.
Good day, sir. I said good day.
All right. Take care now. Bye-bye then.
Loser.